Memorizing VFR weather minimums can honestly be kind of intimidating. You look at this whole table of stuff and it just feels like a lot. But I want to explain to you what has helped it click for me. And it's not anything really fancy. It's just trying to think intuitively why it would be the way it is. And that has just really helped it stick for me. So let me show it to you. So this is the flashcard that I made on this topic. Ultimately, we'll come back to this with some highlighting, kind of show you how it all fits together. But I think it's more helpful to kind of break it down and write it out first. So the way I like to think about this is everything is working off of this base set of minimums, I'll call it. And the base set is going to be 3 statute miles of visibility. You have to be 1,000 feet above the clouds, 500 feet below, and 2,000 horizontally. Usually this is abbreviated to 152, so 152. Think about it like a Cessna 152. At first I used to get the 1,000 and 500 backwards, like is it 1,000 above or 500 above? Again, if you just think about this intuitively, it'll help you memorize it. So if we draw it out here, let's pretend here is our cloud deck, very, very artistic, and here is your airplane. It's obviously more difficult for the aircraft to climb than it is to descend, and so you want more margin between you and those clouds. Whereas if you're below the clouds and you start kind of working up towards it, or the layer starts coming down a little bit, it's a lot easier for the airplane just to descend. And so you don't need as big of a separation if you're underneath the clouds than if you are above them. But the other reason is thinking about separation with IFR traffic. So if there's a jet coming this way, they are usually going to be climbing a lot faster than they are going to be descending. And so you want to have more margin between you as the VFR target here and the IFR target popping out of the clouds, because their climb gradient is going to be more aggressive here popping out of the clouds than if the situation was reversed and you're beneath the clouds. Here comes an IFR bogey descending through it. They're going to be descending slower. You have a little bit more time. So if you just think about those logical reasons, there's a good reason why you'd be 1,000 above and 500 below. So 152 is going to be our home base. So if we go through the different types of airspace here, Class A is really easy because you can't fly VFR in Class A. So the VFR weather minimums are not applicable, right? Easy. Moving on to Class B, this one is also easy. If you think about it, if you are a VFR aircraft and you go into Class B, you get clearance into that airspace, and then they're going to be vectoring you around. They're also vectoring out around all the IFR traffic as well. And so these weather minimums, yes, try to keep you out of inadvertent IMC, but the other big thing is traffic separation between VFR and IFR traffic. Class B, ATC is doing the heavy lifting for that. So therefore, it's not our 152. It is actually less restrictive in terms of cloud clearance requirements. So it is going to be 3 statute miles of visibility and then clear of clouds. So the way I think about it is if I'm flying VFR, I'm in Class B, as long as ATC isn't vectoring me into a cloud and I have 3 statute miles of visibility, then great. As long as I'm not in the clouds, it is fine. So 3 miles clear of clouds. Moving on to Class C. This one is really easy because it just goes back to 152. And actually, I'm going to change the color of that because we're going to be using this one a lot, and I want to show you how frequent it is. So we'll put that in green. It's 152. If we go to Class Delta airspace, same thing. This is 152. So now we're rolling. Class E is where you start to get one of the first little nuances, but it's a very easy one. So this one is split into 2 different altitude ranges. And that altitude range, that break, is going to be at or above 10,000 feet MSL. That might seem random, but there's several things that kick in at 10,000 feet MSL. And the most relevant one here is your airspeed requirements. You're no longer limited to 250 knots of indicated airspeed. So you got jets that are going hundreds of knots, right? And so your closure rate between 2 jets going hundreds of knots is a lot. And so therefore, 152 is not going to be sufficient. And so the FAA widens it a little bit here. They move it to 5 miles of visibility, and then 111, which is 1,000 feet above. That hasn't changed. But now it's 1,000 feet below. That doubled. And then it's 1 statute mile horizontally. So I'll put that one in blue because it's going to come up again. And then if you are below 10,000 feet MSL, it's just 152. So this is going to be a lot of your flying, and this is the first flashcard here. Honestly, that one's pretty easy. It's Class Golf that starts to get a little bit more complicated. However, there are patterns here, and it kind of makes sense. I promise it's not as hard as it looks. So if we come down and add Class Golf, there's going to be 3 different altitude ranges here, but it doesn't have to be complicated. So if we draw two lines here to kind of create our altitude ranges. We'll start with the top one. It's exactly what we just did in class Echo. So it's at or above 10,000 feet MSL. And then the minimums for that are also the same. So it's 5, 1, 1, 1. And then the bottom altitude range here is going to be at or below 1200 AGL, which might seem a little random, but if you look at the VFR sectional, this isn't too far from my home airport in the Dallas area. If you look at these magenta vignettes here, this is where class Echo goes down to 700 feet. Well, what does it come down from? It comes down from 1200 feet. So 1200 might seem like a random number to think about and memorize, but it's already popped up elsewhere, right? So everywhere around here, all of this stuff, class Golf goes up to 1200 feet, right? So that has its own set of weather minimums there, at or below 1200 feet. Now the FAA separates this into daytime and nighttime, but it's very, very simple. I'm about to show you. So starting with daytime, this is real easy. This is 1 mile clear of clouds. Not very restrictive, but it's kind of similar to class B, except you only need 1 mile of visibility, not 3, okay? So this is like the least restrictive airspace there is. Think about crop dusters and stuff like that. Like if it's 1 mile clear of clouds, daytime, they're going. At nighttime, this conveniently just goes up to 3,152, okay? Goes back to home base there, so to speak. If we go into this middle altitude range, it also breaks it out into day and to night. But night is really easy because it's 3,152. So while it's a little annoying that you have to memorize that class G has like the nighttime nuance and stuff, it's not hard to memorize the fact that all of the nighttime stuff just goes up to 3,152. So that helped me. And so this last one here to fill in would be in between these altitude ranges during the day. This one doesn't show up anywhere else. It's 1,152. One helpful way to think about it is you're kind of taking the 1 mile from 1 mile clear of clouds, and then you're taking the 152 from everything else. So it's almost like a combined figure. So this one is a little bit random, but if you think about it logically, okay, we're not all the way, at or above 10,000 feet MSL where things are happening a lot faster. We're also not down near the ground, below 1,200 feet AGL where it can be a lot less restrictive. So it's kind of somewhere in between, but it's still class Golf, still uncontrolled airspace. So it's less restrictive than the 3,152. So it goes to 152. At night, it's harder to see, and so therefore the minimums go up to 3,152. So this might seem like a lot, but if we go back up here to the flashcard and use the highlighter, I think this can also draw some connections for you here. If we look at all the instances that 3,152 shows up, it's in class C, it's in class Delta, it's in class E below 10,000 feet MSL. Anytime it's at night in the night ones in class Golf here are 3,152. This is going to represent a large chunk of your flying, and so 3,152 shows up a lot. And then if we think about the 5,111, this happens at or above 10,000 feet MSL in both class Echo and class Golf, okay? So those kind of go together. And then you've kind of got these little nuances here of 3 miles clear of clouds and 1 mile clear of clouds, but they're kind of similar to one another in that way. And then you just have this one random one, which is the 152. It's a little bit of a booger, but like I explained earlier, it's kind of almost like a combination of some of the other things you're seeing in class Golf. So when you realize that there's a pattern to a lot of this stuff, there's a lot of overlap, there's logical reasons things would go up or they would go down, I think it gets a lot easier to memorize. And if you want to check out these flashcards, it's a set of over 350 cards, spent like 15 months making these, along some really talented CFIs. They're super helpful. They've gotten tons of really, really good reviews. You can check it out over at airplaneacademy.com/flashcards, or the link is down below in the description. Or in the video on the screen, I'll tell you exactly how I made them, what all went into it, and you can see if it can help your situation. So I will see you there.